This is the June energy update. There's 7 major themes to the month of June. I'm going to go through all 7 of them. We're going to see so much. Some people transforming, some people erupting, some people walking away. And there is a consciousness that's coming through June that's going to bring you these 7 themes in varying ways and at varying times. So they're not all going to come in order. Listen to all 7 and you'll see where they slot into your month. But elements of this will come through into your life. It's always exciting to see how this plays out. Let's start with the big one, the volcano. That's the very first energy that you may have already felt. Remember, there's no set structure in terms of what order this all comes in, but the first one is the eruption of your inner volcano, which is not destructive. It's cleansing and purifying, and it's all about, okay, I can no longer keep my mouth shut. I want to, but I can't. I need to either set the record straight or have my say or correct somebody's assumption. There's going to be something inside of you that says, I can't keep quiet anymore. This does not mean, please don't misunderstand, that you have to become confrontational or even nasty or even aggressive. Because as much as I am calling this volcanic, it's the energy of I can no longer suppress my truth. I cannot put myself in self-compromise. I cannot put myself in positions of self-sacrifice. So here's an example. A very dear friend of mine. She hired somebody into her company, and it was a person she had known for a very long time. And the person that she put into a pretty big position let her down time and time again. But guess what she did? She played the role of the good girl. And she didn't really overcorrect. She made her case numerous times. It was never heard. It was never taken seriously. So guess what? Instead of firing this person and saying, look, there's a level of incompetence here that I cannot manage, what she did instead, because she didn't want to offend anyone, she didn't want to hurt anyone, what she did is she hired somebody else to do the actual work whilst keeping the incompetent staff member on. So now she's paying 2 salaries. One you could think of more as a gesture, and the other was more of a legitimate salary. And then she got to a place where not for a second longer, a day longer, a moment longer could she manage it. The unfairness and the injustice got to her. And in her head, she said to me, I thought I could do this permanently. I thought I could just be nice and say, look, here's your salary. I'm just not going to rock the boat, because that was her big fear. Her big fear was, I've always been called a bitch and I don't want to rock the boat and I don't want to be nasty and I don't want to upset anyone. So I'll compromise myself. And in her mind, she thought that she could do it until she couldn't. And there was no warning. There was no real build-up. It was just bam, not a day longer. And once she reached that place, according to her, it went very well and it was all very sweet and polite. So she didn't get aggressive. And this is important to see. She didn't, and you don't have to spew lava at another person, because the moment you step into self-honoring, guess what happens? The lava turns to water and it becomes cooling and it becomes tranquil. So this isn't about I'm going to become a destructive force. This is more like I'm going to become a destructive force in my own life if I don't remedy what needs to be remedied right now. There is a space and a time for us to be out of integrity with ourselves, and then there's no more space for that. Hello, welcome to June. This is where we are. So guess what's at the epicenter of all of this volcanic rising? It's your throat chakra. That's where all of this truth is busy congregating and busy congealing to be expressed into the world. The throat chakra is a massive hub of the June energy, and so much of what you go through is going to be centered here. Remember that the throat chakra is not even about what you say. It's the truth with which you say it. It doesn't have to be aimed at a person. It's not about finding the right words. It's about the right frequency, and it's the frequency of truth that is a ripple. Sometimes that ripple is woven into words. Sometimes it is just an inaudible hum gem of truth. I've just uploaded the throat chakra meditation. So many of you guys were asking me about that. It's in my online shop, and if you want to go check it out, I'm going to leave in the video description box for you a coupon code, so you can go ahead and do that throat chakra clearing, because this is the time. Part of that energy is an intolerance. This is point number 2, an intolerance for being drained. For places where, circumstances where, relationships where you are in a giving position, or you, and maybe that giving position is not being honored, or you are being drained by somebody else. Maybe this is a friendship, maybe this is a relationship. Very similar to point number 1. That's an intolerance rising inside of you. And when it does, don't judge yourself and say, gosh, I must be a bad friend or a bad person because suddenly I can't manage the conversations I used to. You cannot be in self-compromise. You cannot be in a position where you're not being honored, where you're allowing yourself to be drained, and then show up in the world as the highest version of you. Because what you're doing is you're showing up as a degraded, downgraded, dysregulated version of you, and then everything that you create in the world stems from that. So right now we got a lot of people lacking the integrity that we need to bring the love that we need online right now. This is a harsh lesson for a lot of us. It's a harsh lesson because we want to give love, be love, do beautiful things. We want that. We just have no idea, or up until this point have had no idea, that in order to offer that level of love and beauty to the world, it has to exist in here. It has to. And so many of us are so afraid of affronting or confronting somebody else, either being seen in a bad light, being misunderstood perhaps. We're so afraid of those things that we do that swallowing down, biting off the tongue. Here comes the volcano. There comes the intolerance. I can't be in this situation anymore. And what you're going to find is, even without you plotting and planning and thinking about it, those places and spaces that are draining you, you're going to find that they're swept away. Point number 7 is going to explain to you what the catalyst behind this is, just by the way. Number 3, there are so many wants, your desires, the things in your life that you're desperately wanting. Those things. It can be a better bank account, a better level of health, a better level of fitness, a better body, a better relationship, a better car, the wants. Your wants are your compass. They are not your condemnation, because we've seen it that way. We've seen the things that we desire, the things that we crave, the things that we yearn for as the things that we don't have, and therefore the things that we lack. So we've judged ourselves for even having wants. And there is a reshuffling now of how you're going to land up seeing these wants. Do you know why? The wants and the desires of your life are universal direction and course correction. Stop and look at them now from a fresh lens and see them not without a sense, or rather not with a sense of shame, but rather with a sense of gratitude. These are the things that are leading me. These are the things that are propelling me. And think of them as just those orientations, the things that make you look towards a certain reality, towards a certain outcome. Maybe you don't get that specific outcome, but it's that orientation, that pointing of direction that your wants are leading you to. Point number 4 is so misunderstood. It's so imperative. It's so important. It is a part of the ascension journey. Boundaries. I would say this is the most misunderstood concept in self-help, in pop psychology, in spirituality, spiritual growth. This is the most misunderstood concept, because the way that people have been erecting boundaries is in an inorganic way. I'm going to explain what this means. An inorganic boundary is something that you build. It's a wall. And you're using that wall without realizing the damage, without realizing that you are in the center of many walls, and those walls become a cage. And you're not wrong if this is what you've done. You're not wrong. I don't want you to listen to this and go, oh no, I'm obviously failing and flawed. This is understandable if this is how you've done boundaries, because this has been the prolific understanding and teaching about what a boundary is. And because it's an inorganic boundary, it is going to entice arrogance into it. It is a part of the ego. And so you're going to see people, I often see it in those comment sections in self-help communities and so forth, where people go, I put up a boundary and I taught him and I showed that one and I put them in their place and then I did this and then I said that. And it becomes an expression of superiority and a downgrading of the other person. Whereas a true organic boundary is an emanation of your light. Look at how different that is. An inorganic boundary becomes walls that you actually build around yourself without realizing that you're caging yourself. The organic boundary becomes a ripple of your light that emanates from the truth that you live. Where does that come from? The self-honor that you are being so compelled right now to enact. The disentangling from all those relationships that drain you. That begins to build a new relationship with yourself. And that is the basis of a boundary. A boundary comes from self-honor and self-respect, not from I'm going to teach somebody else a lesson. It's okay for all of us to stumble and fumble along the way. We didn't get a rule book when we were born to this world. We know this. So we're learning, we're grappling with what we have an idea is the right thing. We have an idea, yes, boundaries are important because they are, but we have executed them in an upside down way. Do you know why? Because we've lived in a false matrix, and that was the nature. It was an inversion. So we would recognize a seed of truth. That's the seed of truth. I must have boundaries, yes. But then what would happen is the implementation of that seed, the planting of that seed, would be where everything went awry. The concept was correct, but the execution was an inversion. And that is part of living in the false matrix. So you are going to have many places. You see, oh no, for example, I was busy doing boundaries from my ego, or I was busy living from my ego, or I was inauthentic, or I was self-compromising, whatever it is, you're going to see these things about yourself. Because the beauty is, as we evolve, we kind of didn't imagine that light was going to bring light to our own inner illusions. So many people in the spiritual community, the truther community, they are and were waiting for the light to be shone on the external darkness, meaning all of the lies out there at the level of government, at the level of the dysregulation of our own nervous system, how we've been manipulated in the world through our food, through our water, through weather, etc. We wanted all of the light to be shone on that, and it will be because it's being shone here within first. So it will take courage to see what shows up, and then you greet it with point number 5, a higher love. The higher love that I'm talking about is a word that we're all familiar with, but a frequency that we really don't know, and that is unconditional love. Unconditional love means love without condition. Our inversion is that we have wanted unconditional love in a relationship, because it sounds fantastical, doesn't it? To say, oh, I love this person unconditionally and this person loves me unconditionally. It sounds like a fairy tale, and who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't? But again, this was a seed of truth, and in its execution, it failed. We cannot have unconditional love the higher love, so to speak, in the external relationships until we have it with ourselves. That's what's taking place right now. We're learning to lean into a very different relationship with ourselves. It's based on more compassion. It's based on more tolerance. It's based on more self-acceptance, which is, I accept the places where I got it wrong without blame, without shame, without remorse. In fact, if anything, with pride. Look at me learning. Look at me growing. Look at me getting things wrong so that I can get them right. Look at me evolving. As this new relationship with yourself starts, and please bear this in mind, unconditional love is a journey, not a destination. It's starting now, but it's starting in the right place, in the relationship with yourself. And where will you feel it? You're going to feel it in divine guided meditation, in breathwork, in stillness, in your yoga, in those moments of Zen, which are the moments of stillness. You can have them while you're in the shower. You can have them while you're making breakfast. You'll find that there are those little spaces opening up in the world where more light is coming in, but it's a particular frequency of light. It's a light that allows you to see yourself softly. This is very different to the self-criticism and the self-punishment that we were all brought up with. Where are we? Number 6, parting of brass rags. I love the saying. It's a very British saying. I am such a fan of old English novels and P.G. Wodehouse, the classic Jeeves and Wooster series. Well, that was a parting of brass rags, and this defines what we're going to see in point number 6, certain relationships ending. Certain relationships just coming to a natural end, almost like they can't be sustained anymore. It's going to be a case of it's either me that I choose or the other person. Not every relationship is going to come down to that choice. Some relationships are going to come down to I either choose to honor myself or honor the other person at the expense of myself. Relationships that were set up this way are doomed to fail because the other person fell in love with you or has been friends with you, whatever kind of relationship it is, based on your self-compromise. And those relationships do not honor you. They drain from you. And because of that, there's going to be an inability within you to maintain and sustain them. And maybe it's not a relationship with another person. Maybe it's a job. And I know when I say things like this that people go, oh, that's scary. I need my job. I want my job. Please remember this. We're going to go now into point number 7. This is so imperative. Nothing happens because your head is making it happen. This is not, I'm changing my mind about my job. I'm changing my mind about my relationship. I'm changing my mind about my desires. No, this is something in me is changing at the body level. So we could even say it like this. I'm not changing my mind. My body is changing. My body is shifting, which means my frequency is shifting, which means my reality is shifting. And this is what's important. When you shift from the inside, when your inner reality realigns itself, your outer reality restructures itself around the inner shift. So don't be afraid. Your mind cannot plan. 9 times out of 10, things don't work out the way that your brain thinks they're going to. They work out in a way that is quantum, meaning we can't calculate them. They are extensions of and expressions of our light rippling into a literal new timeline, a literal new reality that is being reshaped even now as I speak to you, as you listen to these words. Can you feel that? That there is something in you that is realigning itself to your truth. And on this note, I must remind you that any time that you ever choose yourself in a relationship, and in so doing you lose the love of somebody else, that is not a loss. That is never a loss. If choosing you means that somebody leaves because they can't be around you when you are self-respecting, self-honoring, my darling, that is by no means a loss. That's a gain in your life. So allow that reshaping to take place, the higher love to settle in right now as I share these parting words with you. For those of you that are regulars to my video, you know what comes next. So sit down, take this in, let yourself feel it. This is a love activation from my heart. All the way to yours. So much love.